You can call Denise?
Yeah, call Denise. We got 10 minutes.
Well, it went live.
We're live, but I'm moving on.
Yeah, we got time. How's everybody doing today?
Hope y'all are out there.
How you doing, David?
Good. Glad to be here.
How are you, Mr. Butch?
Doing well, Mr. Smith. How you doing?
Good, good. Smith? Carrie?
Okay.
Carrie's better than good.
I'm always better than good.
You heard it there first. Second.
Hey, can you untransfer the phone? She said no. Oh no, will you? Will you? Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks, bye. I said, will you? She said no. I was like, she goes, I forgot. I was like, oh, I guess she thought I said, did you?
Oh, did you? Oh,
Got one person in,
got one person in.
2 people in. They're slowly getting there. You got something in?
And I try, when you say their names, I try to wave at them. You're right, we need
Make sure you like the video when you guys come in.
to. Yep, we're warming up, folks. We're warming up, so give us a second. I was wrong.
Second win, 75's in.
All right, second win in.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, second win, we got something to tell you. Thank you. We hope.
People. Yeah. We started on time.
Yeehaw!
Said he still likes your boots, Gary.
Oh, thanks.
Ooh, got a style and profile.
That's how I roll.
Hey, second win, we found the game on our little mics, and we're trying for the first time. Hopefully, you saved our lives here. We'll know as it goes on. Thank you for taking the time to inform us. Appreciate that. Well, there, Mr. Ted Will.
All good.
Oh, yeah.
Said not a problem.
So tonight will be our first podcast with our game readjusted. So, as usual, we appreciate especially your comments if it breaks up any. We did a Facebook Live the other day, and it was horrible. With the breakup, there's a whole lot of extraneous screaming and hollering and noise. Stan's fan club was here, and all his groupies were hollering at him. So, oh, Stan!
That's what it sounded like.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
You want to start early?
Yeah. Introduce David.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody, we're gonna go on a popular, unpopular topic, and we brought in third-party advice. And a participant, David Tidwell here. Dave's a bass tournament fisherman and outdoorsman. He's got sort of a rodeo background like I do. Dealt with animals most of his life. So we're going to get his opinion. This came up. Dave's got a really nice shepherd he came out here for training, and we this came up about electric collars one day, and we discovered that David has rather strong opinions about such things, and we like to present both sides of every argument, and the e-collar shock jock folks are getting to be really, really popular in the training world for the civilian pet owners and such, and even more popular for the people that think they're doing sport dogs or that are doing sport dogs. So we thought we'd get a little extra, get two sides of the coin, see if we could actually learn something about the e-collars, their purpose. They have a purpose. They're not so good purpose, and so we brought in an expert. She's right over here, the golden retriever, because where's it? That boyfriend, your boyfriend, how many electric collars on you?
They don't work.
They don't work.
Literally.
Didn't excite you at all, huh?
No. I'm immune to them.
You what?
I don't like them.
You don't like them?
She said she's immune to.
You're immune to them, okay. See, she thinks we're talking about on her dog. She doesn't realize.
Talking about on her.
Yeah, but that's, she's our golden retriever. So I'm gonna give you a little background on the electric collar.
Okay.
Like it says in the description of our title, every tool has a purpose, and I thoroughly believe that. And if you use it, and some tools you can use for more than one thing. The electric collar was invented, or at least started manufactured. I don't know who invented it, but the first manufacturer of an electric collar was the Tritronics company about the 1950s here in this country. And their market was going to be bird dog hunters. And the purpose of the collar was so that bird hunters had a correction device, a long-range correction device that could keep the dog safe, that could keep them from busting a covey, lots of other things. And then somewhere about 15, 20 years ago, people started using them. And I'm going to go a step further here. When you got a collar from the Tritronics company, they sent you a pamphlet. And this is a fine point that's missed today. There's people like, some of you have heard the name Bart Malone, amazing trainer using electric collar. But the original booklet pamphlet that you get with the Tritronics collar said, first you train your dog, and you teach him everything you want him to do. And your collar is only used to make them a little bit sharper if they're getting distracted, something of that nature. That was really the way it was supposed to be done. Regular, normal training. And I believe that's the way Mr. Malone does his work. And then he just really sharpens his dogs up with that collar. He's an amazing trainer. An e-collar trainer. So that's how it was originally designed. And then somewhere in the late 90s, it became an all-around training tool, so people came up with an idea that they could train obedience or everything else with an electric collar, and that's become very popular with the belief that it's the same as off-leash training. So there's the background. That's how it started. That was the original purpose and intent. And David has some strong feelings about it, but he was thoughtful enough. When I said, hey, come on the podcast, let's talk about it, he was thoughtful enough to background. Well, you take it from there, Dave. What'd you do when you came on here?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. Yeah, the first time we talked about this, and still to this day, the only training that I've actually, everything I'll say is off of what I've actually seen firsthand. And I've just never actually seen it work in bite training. I've never, still to this day, I haven't seen it be effective in bite training. And you're right, I did wanted to give it a fair shake, and I talked to, as you introduced me as an outdoorsman, I do a lot of hunting, and I have hunted behind some world-class dogs. I mean, some really great dogs. And I started thinking about it when y'all asked me to do this podcast with you. A lot of them were wearing e-collars. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, there's got to be something to it. So I talked to a few buddies that, had the dogs, and what was funny is they all had the same response of how they used it as a tool.
Really?
They were very adamant to tell me that is not how they train their dogs, or very rarely used it, if any, in training. They used it as a tool for the safety of their dogs.
So how do you mean safety?
So to give a good example, there was a gentleman that gave me 3 really good examples. One was snakes. You quail hunt out in West Texas a lot. You do a lot of different kind of hunting, and the response you get from the shock got them back pretty quick. Another example is, you're out hunting and your dog gets on a deer. During deer season, you certainly don't want your dog chasing a buck across posted property with, 15 blinds in there with 15 hunters.
Cheating, yeah.
It's not very safe.
Yeah.
And then, you don't want your dog running across highway or something like that. Chasing after something or. So, when it was described to me as actually how it was being used by some of the guys that I fully trust in what they do, it started making a little bit more sense to me. Because, I'd always, from what I've read and heard, they start their pups out and, you hear these horror stories about these pups have been shocked so much they won't even listen and all that. And they confirmed that. They were like, that's true.
Yeah.
If you shock them enough, they won't. But, as you said, it's a tool, and they can, they really felt strong about, why they used it, and it made sense to me after talking to them.
Right.
Now, bite training, we're talking night and day to
Sure.
me now.
Sure.
So, if you, you have to really separate, to me, dog use for sport and hunting and things like that as to a protection dog.
Right.
And, everything that they talk about that they use that collar for was a disciplinary issue, basically.
Right.
And if your dog isn't disciplined, he probably shouldn't take bite training anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, I guess my point is, before you and Stan are great at what y'all do, but I've never seen y'all teach a dog bite training before he's completed obedience.
Right.
So the whole point is, a lot of people that I see using e-collars and bite training, they're really cutting corners. I mean, I don't know
That
how
valid
else to say it.
stand.
They're
That's a good way to put it.
they're cutting corners, and they're, I might as well just say it. I don't feel like they're putting their work in. Because if you're gonna, when all of us have dogs here, and we give our dog a command, we are looking for a positive prescribed response.
Sure.
And I don't want to have to shock my dog to get that response. I want him to have enough respect for me through what we've done together to absolutely act on that. And gosh, I can give you several negative examples of what I've seen, in shocking dogs and bite training. They just don't fit to me.
Well, and when you put it that way, Gary, you started doing tracking with bullet yet?
Yeah,
So, before we start tracking, this is one way that you can use an electric collar, and one way that it could be misunderstood. So, Carrie's got her Western Shepherd Bullet, and he's gonna be an all-purpose, many-purpose dog. He does the protection work, he's gonna do the tracking, he's gonna do probably drug detection. When we start tracking, what do we put on him?
to work him,
Yeah.
either regular collar or his own collar.
No, when we start the tracking, we got that far yet, we didn't?
No, we hadn't put a harness on yet.
We haven't.
Oh, the
Okay.
vest.
She's still starting the
Yeah, we haven't done
beginning
into that.
steps.
Okay, so, well, Stan's hiding behind the camera there.
Hey, folks.
What, like you said, the harness, what do we put the harness on before we start tracking?
So it can identify what job they're going to be doing, for lack of better words.
Right. So it's like it's a second command.
Yes.
When I'm putting the harness on, I know I'm fixing to go use my nose for something. And there's a whole lot of people who know that, and they understand that dogs become very equipment oriented, we call it. And by changing the equipment, you can kind of preload a dog for the next job. So what a lot of folks aren't thinking about when using an e-collar or don't know is you put your e-collar on the dog and you put him through an obedience session, and then later you don't have an e-collar on him and you ask him to do the same obedience, and in the dog's brain it's kind of like, what? I'm not wearing that collar.
I don't have to.
Why? Yeah, there you go. Why should I? You know, because they are so equipment oriented. You know that already, though.
Yeah.
You've seen that
Absolutely.
with your dog. So, what happens if your battery's died?
The car will start. That's just it.
And your dog don't come back to see if it gets started, right? You know, so those are, you know, that's some of the things that can happen with an e-collar. That's, so for me, I like, and we'll go back to the golden retriever here. What kind of gadgets to use with Bullet?
To train him,
Yeah,
treats and then just praise. I mean, I don't.
I'm just asking. It's not a question.
I don't
mean,
have
it's not a
gadgets.
quiz.
Oh, I don't do any. I just use me and him and some treats sometimes.
So excuse me, communication.
Yeah, I can give my dog a look and he knows he's fixing to get it. Like we communicate like that.
Mommies can do that, you see.
Yeah, and I don't use anything.
Right. So if you, you know, again, if you take the original system for an e-collar, you train your dog, you train him well, and then just to make sure he doesn't get distracted by something, you put that on him occasionally. You know, you're okay. You're gonna use a good tool. But the biggest way to advertise, Dave, is off-leash training.
I love off leash
Yeah, well, they say we got instant off-leash training if you use an e-collar.
training.
Tell me about that, Dave. What do you think?
I think you're in for a wild ride. No, off-leash training is something that you earn. I don't know how else to explain it with that.
Right.
It should be an absolute privilege to work your dog off leash. And when you can work your dog off leash, you know you've put in some serious blood, sweat, and tears.
Thank you.
And that is a very, very well-deserved trophy that everybody should have, that gets to the level that where they can take that leash off and feel 100% confident that their dog's going to do exactly what it needs to do.
Right.
And they should be proud of that.
Oh, yeah, undoubtedly, undoubtedly. And that's an old-fashioned concept, you know. Training,
Yeah. Work.
we're gonna keep working. Isn't there an app for that? I don't know. I could have sworn, so.
Yeah.
And you've been to some other countries, and how many e-collars, and we know, for those of you not familiar, we had full disclosure, I've worked a lot with people in Denmark and the Danish military, so in my opinion, in their opinion, the finest military dogs in the world are trained by the Swedes, who are amazing. In my opinion, not having had the opportunity to work with the Swedes like they have, I think the Danes are the greatest military dog trainers in the world. About dogs that have a purpose. So, what brand of e-collar do they use in Denmark, Stan?
Shoot. I don't remember because I didn't see any brands of e-collars when we were in Denmark. I
Really?
think they are actually banned. So if you were using an e-collar in Denmark, you were really doing it on the hush-hush.
Oh.
They, majority of the time, the dogs didn't have collars on at all. If anything, they had a harness on when they were doing their bite work, and tracking or anything like that. They would have a harness, but never seen an e-collar, and rarely even seen a prong collar over there. So they communicate with their dogs
Right.
a lot.
So it's like, you mean they like train them?
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
they work with the dogs.
Oh my goodness.
It's funny things happen when you actually work with your dog.
If you just train, oh my goodness. Well, I just.
People don't want to put in the work.
What?
People don't want to put in the work.
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole thing. So the whole, and let's go on to why does it work that it takes? You know, if it's conditioned response. Somebody was asking me this morning about getting their dog to come when they call them. And, you know, like I told them, you need to practice. Here's a training tip for everybody. A large number of the people who bring dogs out here to train, when they're bringing older dogs, when I say older, I'm talking 9 months to 16, 18 months. I hear them tell me, I want him to learn to come no matter what. So we practice. These are people who are really putting in the time, right? But the time they're putting in is not, so they say, I take him to the park and I give him commands and he runs off to chase a little girl at the concession stand. Or I take him to the soccer game and I tell him to sit and stay and he jumps up and runs on the field. So, because they want him to obey with distractions. Remember this, folks. You don't learn things when you're distracted. You learn things when you're paying attention. So when you want your dog to do well, right, Dave? It's pretty basic. Horses, dogs, anything?
I was just thinking, I wished I had $1 for every time me and Blitz have walked the aisles at Lowe's.
Yeah. But he already knew what to do, and you had him under control. So it's sort of like this. If you, all right, here's a scary. You don't have to listen to this part if you don't want to.
Okay.
But so like, first you learn it, then you add your distractions. You don't just start learning it while the distractions are there. For instance, math class, high school. I sat at a window in high school, and the football track field was right outside the window. And I was in Mr. Smith's third period, and that also happened to be the same time that the girls' track team was practicing, right outside my window. I flunked math. I mean, what else can I tell you? To this day, I have trouble with anything past 3 plus 2. So, if you learn it first, work your dog in a distraction-free area consistently, at least 3 to 5 weeks. Then go out and introduce him with where he can be successful. Go to some place that doesn't have too many distractions, right, Dave?
Right.
And then ramp up your distractions after they've learned it well.
Brick by brick.
Yeah, brick by brick. And if you'll go brick by brick, as he put it, you won't need an electric car. I don't think.
No, I think that I keep going back to the same thing, but it boils down to work, and you're gonna get exactly what you put in. You're gonna get out what you put in, and it's no different than anything else. Really, it's not that much different than work or anything else. I think everybody's seen what hard work does.
Sure.
And
exactly.
you get what you put into it, but it's so funny. You go to YouTube and all these things that are available now, and you watch 100 videos and you hear 100 different. Nobody's the same or what they think, but the one thing that you have to keep in mind is that dog wants to please you all the time. That dog wants to please you. So keep that in mind. Stan actually taught me this one day I don't even think he knew he taught it to me. But when I got that concept really in my head, that when I teach Blitz something and he does it correctly, it pleases him to see me happy with his outcome, and then he gets his praise.
Right.
So, but that's not going to come with a shock collar. And that's not going to come with a YouTube video. That's going to come from coming out here and putting your hours in and, working with your dog, with, somebody that can be there and to show you the correct way to work with your dog.
Right.
Because you really want. I'm so lucky I live so close to you guys. Because when I first got into this, I didn't. I think y'all could probably tell better stories than me. It was crazy, but no, once you get your dog to where you start seeing the results of the work, it all starts coming together, and it is just amazing how far you can. I mean, look at Rocco. How far you can take a dog.
That's right. That's why they're man's best friend. How many hours a week do you put in the bullet, and how hard is it?
When I bring him to work, maybe 30 minutes. But I have to do work. Throughout the day, I'll do stuff too. So I'm constantly working with him, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like when we're at home, doing just little stuff throughout the day.
Right. Like, give me an example.
Front, sit, stay, down. Like his basic obedience.
So, somebody rings the doorbell and instead of him walking the door with you, you might tell him to down and stay while you go talk to him. Is that the sort of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something I call lifestyle training. That's, I never put a form around it until, I don't know, somebody's asking, well, how do you train your dog? And I realized I don't really train my dog, of course. And I was in a more unique situation on y'all because, especially in the guard dog company, that's where I formulated a lot of these ideas. I never set aside a training time, but my dogs were just with me and they had to do what we needed to do at that time. So it was something a system we call lifestyle training. If you'll, Stan, I watch you and Rocco do something, and Oakley do something out here every day. What do y'all do?
Live.
Play.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, if we're getting in the car, I'll roll the window down and ask them to jump through the window. Some stuff like that. And they, like David was saying, they enjoy it. They know it makes me happy when they're doing these things. So the pleasure of their handler getting satisfaction makes them want to do it more.
That's the way to put it. Yeah, the way to put it.
And that actually goes into a question that Second Wind 75 had.
Hey, Second Wind, thank you, buddy, again.
Does the dog respond better with pleasure, example treats, than pain corrections? So would a dog respond better with praise or communication versus always being painful? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I absolutely, because what I believe is real simple. When there's something in it for you, and this is, if you go back to B.F. Skinner and all the psychologist books, they'll tell you an action successfully completed is more likely to be repeated. So if a wolf pup chases a rabbit going for a meal, and the rabbit runs into a log, bear with me, you'll see where I'm going with this. And he goes and sticks his head in the hollow log, and he keeps trying to dig in there and get to that rabbit. That rabbit squirts out the other end. Well, that's an unsuccessful attempt. That's like a painful outcome, right? It's an unpleasant outcome. And the next time he chases a rabbit, if it runs into a log, I guarantee you they pick it up so quick that wolf will sit back and watch both ends of that log from there on. So we know that, again, something that you enjoyed doing or something that paid off is more likely to be repeated. What you learn or your willingness to learn because you're rewarded, and it doesn't have to be food. And I'll go into that in a second. If it's something in it for you, you're going to repeat it. If there's an ouch in it, you're going to avoid it. So I truly believe these dogs that we see trained, people think they're training obedience with an e-collar until they take the collar off and ask the dog to do something. I'm teaching the dog what I want him to do. They're teaching the dog what to avoid doing. Don't stand up, you better flatten your fanny when you hear this sound, or else. So what are you gonna do when you don't have that collar on your neck? You're gonna choose something you want to do. Good question, thank you.
Have you ever used an e-collar, Butch?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I like to think there ain't nothing in the dog world I ain't tried or used or done at least a couple of times. But,
When did you use a knee collar?
Well, I'll tell you the last time I used it. Man, I used it, well, I'll tell you the last time I used it. Remember, it's a long distance correction tool. I've never used it for training, but I had used them. So when we first got out of the guard dog business and came here, I had 2 dogs. This kennel we're at now had been shut down for 20 years. It was all overgrown, and it was kind of like going out in the woods and starting all over again,
Right.
you know. And there's a couple of houses up the road, and I come out, I had my shepherd, and I had a little mixed breed that came with us from El Paso named Ruru. Ruru was a little brindle pit mix, just the sweetest, and she followed poo everywhere. And I would bring them out, and I don't need a leash or a collar on my dogs. They come out here when I come out to clear the land, cutting down trees, what we're doing, and they just run around, you know. And then I got a call from a neighbor complaining that my shepherd was over there with another dog trying to kill her cats. So I thought, okay, so I brought Pooh up and Rue up to the boundary, and I told him what the boundary was, and I better not cross it. 4 days later, I got another call. And this time the lady was rather upset with me, right? So I thought, well, I'm gonna fix them. So I had a set of collars. Tri-Tronics Company was good to me. They used to sponsor a lot of pro sports stuff. And so I put a collar on Lou and one on Pooh Bear. They have 2 remotes, right? Or dual remote. And I was going around doing what I was doing, working real hard, and all of a sudden I looked around and my 2 dogs had taken off again. Damn. So I holler, Pooh Bear, Roo-Roo. I'm whistling. They ain't coming. Directly here comes Pooh Bear, she's a shepherd. She comes running, I see her coming through the woods, and I'm like, okay, she's coming. Roo-Roo! Roo! Well, all right, I'm gonna teach you. And I took my little controller out and I go, Roo! And I wait a few minutes. Roo! I wait a few minutes, and then Roo! And then here's, oh. And I go, what the hell? And I turn around and look, and there was Roo. She'd been laying behind me the whole damn time. Hadn't gone nowhere. And I had not held a remote since then. So, you know, I've been known to make a mistake. I know it's going to be hard for a lot of you people to believe, but it's been known to happen, right, Gary?
Not you, Butch.
So, anyway, I hope everybody, I hope there was something good in this for everybody, some information worth having. And I want to thank David. He's, you know, like I said, he's pretty experienced in some of this stuff, and he's got some good sound ideas, and I appreciate that very much.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we have to come back when we're doing our live trainings on Tuesday nights, and you can show off your boy to the world.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would like to say one more thing if I could.
Sure.
If you're completely sold on trying an e-collar, please get with a trainer or somebody that knows about them, and just somebody certified. Just don't throw an e-collar on a dog and ruin him.
There you go. There you go. Appreciate that. Very, very important. That goes with any training too, you know?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Retriever?
Yeah.
You done for the night?
Yeah, I'm hungry.
She's hungry. All right, we're gonna go feed the golden retriever. Stanley, thank you. Jamil, doing great work, buddies.
Masad79 said, appreciate you guys and have a blessed evening.
Thank you, Masad. We appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate you very much. Hey, join us Tuesday night for our live training. Thank you.
Because if you ain't having fun, you ain't training dogs.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carrie.
I can't believe you're fixing it.
I
I was like, okay, is he done talking? I was waiting.
There's our out. Remember, folks, you heard it there first.